sure. I see your last name like Ferko,
Yeah.
right? Okay, good. I always do, just
Yeah.
make from what you think you know to what it
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
is.
Good move.
Cool. Um, and I'll just,
Yeah.
there we go. So I'm here with Peter Ferko.
Hi.
Hi. He's a writer. Um, he's a musician and also a master yoga person and a photographer. So I'm just happy to be here with you right
Yeah,
now.
likewise.
And so we're just here in Fort Greene Park just to talk about what he's been up to lately.
Great.
And I'm very interested in being a creative person that has so many different gifts. How do you kind of make all those things happen?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's sort of all happened organically. I spent most of my younger time as a musician, but photography was an outlet. And I always wrote as a musician, as a songwriter, and occasionally I wrote longer form pieces when something struck me. And as I moved a couple times in my life, and each time I moved it became a little trickier to sort of develop the business of the art form.
Mm-hmm.
And it made a little bit tedious to do some of that work anymore. And the other part, the thing I did that was more the pure art,
Yeah.
became more interesting. And so that sort of moved to the forefront. So music is still something I love, but the logistics of it are something I don't bother with anymore. Photography was something I did for a long time and really loved that, and I still do that a fair amount. But I'm just loving writing because I can do it anywhere, and all it requires is deciding when it's done and then publishing it. Because like music and to some degree art, where people are creating alternative spaces and alternate ways like the internet to share, writing has become very much a independent practice, you know.
And you have your book with you.
I do. My latest published book. You can matches your shirt.
It does. So we're red for that reason.
Yes.
We're like red and black.
Yeah.
The Black Hole of the Heart,
Yes.
which is available on Amazon.
Yep.
And I just thought it was great how the kind of the story went through three different kind of sets of people. I don't know if that's the right term in writing. to say
Yeah,
that.
sure. Like three scenarios that are interrelated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about how, like, does any of the your writing relate to you? When I was reading it, I was wondering. I'm like,
which one
Peter,
is me?
Yeah, I was like, I wonder if he's in here or not.
Yeah.
And you don't have to disclose that either.
Yeah.
But it was just, I was really wondering that.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that excites me so much about writing is that it's a chance to craft a world the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, it's not like you're preaching. So sometimes it's like more like this would be an interesting world rather than one you hoped would be, so that you can sort of explore the drama of the situation or a circumstance or a personality, something like that. So I think in all of the characters, there's a little bit of I have to put myself into that situation to see, well, what would someone do in this situation? And of course, I come through somewhat in that, you know. So, like, there's a yoga teacher in one of the scenarios, and he's not me, but he certainly is influenced by me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, some of the other characters have sort of the faults that I have too, and so I sort of explore what that would be like in this circumstance,
Yeah.
and maybe what I might learn. So it's a kind of a way of resolving some things that are hard in life too,
Yeah.
in this world that's fictional.
Yeah. I thought it was so. I just had such a. It was like a pleasure to read it, and
Thanks.
even the when you say kind of invent the world that you like, with the blues, the blues club.
Yeah.
And I was like, that would be a cool, the different places that maybe you have epiphanies in.
Right.
And, that would, the relationship of the, kind of the theme of the book, which
Yeah.
I'm not going to give away unless
Yeah.
you want to. And the blues club I thought was very cool.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
just was like, oh, yeah.
Well, you had
Yeah.
mentioned before we started about this idea of yoga and that sort of practice, and epiphany was the word you just used, and art, and how they're not so different from each other. And to me, some of my earliest moments of feeling like ecstasy or transcendence were from observing some piece of art, like a Rothko, or having somebody play some musical passage and just being like at tears,
Yeah.
So to me, they're very much coming to the same place. It's just that in experiencing art, it can be more random,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
like an opportune moment and it happens, whereas yoga is more like a practice to get to that place.
Yeah.
So that's why yoga appeals to me so much.
Yeah. And I was also thinking of the photographs that you took where you were trying to capture that. You're
Uh-huh.
trying to find bliss
Yeah.
on your face.
Does
or
Bliss show.
Does it show?
Yeah, yeah.
Which I thought was very, I was like, that's really, can you pick that?
Right.
That kind of feeling up from a photograph. And
Right.
what did you find through that work?
Well, that's very interesting because I had to put myself in those feelings to take them. This is, for those who don't know, this is a self-portraiture
Yeah.
series.
On your website.
Yeah,
you
on
can
my
see-
website.
You can see it right here.
Yeah.
Website.
And so I put myself into situations that I found blissful, like listening to great music, for
Yeah.
instance, and or meditating, and then did a self-portrait in that moment. And so it's a little hard for me to judge whether
Right.
it shows because I also have the recollection of the moment.
That's true.
But I hope it shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. It was great to think about what I did as a viewer as I put myself in those situations too.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the, thinking about, oh yeah, reading, what have I read? So it kind of took me to those places that I've been,
Great.
to remind me of those places.
Yeah.
And I think it, I think that shows it. If you're, that was your point.
Right.
I got it through that way,
Right.
through that place of like taking
Yeah.
me to a place
Yeah.
where I had been before.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I followed that up with another series, does Love Show,
Uh-huh.
which was the same idea. And I think in some ways that shows better because we're so well versed in the signs that someone's happy with
Yes.
someone else.
Yeah.
And those were, a pair of people together and their reaction.
Yeah.
So, it's,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And I feel like too that kind of relationship that you're dealing with in your photography does show up in your
Oh,
in your
good.
writing. So
I'm
that
glad.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Another reason to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I would ask you if you had any, as a master yogi and very creative person, if there's any advice that you have for other, maybe artists that are finding their path in yoga and creativity.
Yeah. I should say, since you're calling me a master yogi, that
Yes.
that's a title that's I was initiated to by my teacher.
By your
so
teacher.
it's
That's
not
a
like
good
I'm
thing.
claiming that.
No, it's a serious thing. Yeah, lots of work.
Yeah, but Yeah, and in fact, I just am in the process of writing a nonfiction book.
Oh, cool.
Because I figured this is silly. I should write something about yoga explicitly.
Yeah.
So I finished a draft of a book on yoga for creative people. So
that's
yoga for artists.
Oh, perfect.
And in this book, I mostly say get a teacher because, I mean, you know, through your own practices too, having a teacher is so powerful. It's
Yeah.
possible to do things without teachers,
Yes.
but it's very hit and miss. And a teacher can be beneficial in the way of being able to see you and see what's going on with you,
Yeah.
where it can be hard to see that yourself, but also because, and this is maybe the esoteric side of it, but there's an energy that a teacher communicates to a student, and without that energy, it's harder to make the transitional jumps that you would hope to make, to really make transformation happen in your world. So my book advises that people find a teacher, but I try to give a lot of good reasons why it's helpful for artists. And it's a little bit maybe about what I was saying earlier, that yoga is a process of getting to that place of seeing things with a different perspective.
Right.
That artists need to do to be worthwhile to experience. I mean, there are a lot of people who are just working out their emotions or something
Right.
on a canvas or in a song.
Right.
But I think most of us recognize when somebody's actually tapping something
Yeah.
juicy, that they're somehow coming to a new perspective on something that's quite ordinary, but they've somehow gained a perspective or a way of looking at it that's magical or
Yeah.
somehow important.
Yeah.
It's worth sharing.
It's worth sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. And I just really appreciate you being here and the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, check out the book. And so people can probably find the new book when it comes out on your website.
Correct.
So we'll
Yeah.
have it magically here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you feel that went?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And we can watch it.
Okay.
If you
I
wanna
mean, did you ask me everything you wanted to?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. It was kind of like I had it in my mind, and
Good.
I think it was for me. I was interested in the yoga and the art.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if enough is being said about that. I think it is.
In what we talked about?
Oh no, I think.
Oh, period. Yeah,
just
yeah.
period. And I
Yeah.
think it's that kind of. I'm very interested in the healing modalities and how they
Yep.
work for creative people. How
Yeah.
it's your ally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why. I mean, and we're still rolling. So
Yes,
the one of the reasons I'm a yogi. I mean, I've always been very interested in the meaning of life kinds of questions, but
Yes.
the arts are challenging. I mean, I said earlier I left music because just the logistics of gigging and all that stuff is like overwhelming.
Yeah.
You work so hard and try to get people to shows, and then they may or may not come and all that kind of thing.
Right.
But doing yoga kept me sane through this decades-long exploration, and I've never stopped doing the artwork, and I've done more and more of the yoga work, and now they feel very much like they're just two halves of me, they're the yin and yang of this is the action and this is the how I stay sane.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree. How's the polarity? Do you do it?
Yeah, it's good. It's funny. I took kind of like almost like a year off of working, and I studied, and you know, I just took this test, and I miss working on people. You know, it's like kind of that. But I was preparing for an art exhibit, and it was just like somehow it felt overwhelming to do all of it.
Right.
So I'm just trying to find kind of like these videos. How can I sustainably do things that's not taxing on my own, or maybe even how do I approach my own artwork, because all of a sudden I have a deadline and everything comes out of me at one time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not healthy either.
Right.
Where I'm like, I can't go to yoga, I have to get to the studio.
Right.
So finding that balance, I think, is kind of next.
Yeah, and and I think you can only do it to a certain degree too, because your life will dictate things. I mean, I had the opportunity this past year, because I was barely working, to write 4 books, you know, and I feel great because I have this pipeline of books now. But at the same time, it came out of a really challenging place where I could have just been depressed for a year, but instead I decided, well, everybody says when you're waiting for this to get edited, just start writing something else, and I decided to take that advice.
Wow.
And just keep going.
Wow.
So, like, this came out because I have a much longer book that I wrote before this.
That's right.
That I'm I'm like doing final revisions on. But this idea came to me, and it was relatively straightforward to write, and time-wise, it didn't take so long because it's such a short novel. You know.
And I love short novels.
Yeah, they're easy to read, and they're fun. And
you have like this completeness.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great.
Yeah, I think I'm going to write more of them.
Please do. I would love to read them.
Yeah. And I'm not a great reader. Like, I've picked up books that are 700 pages long and made it through 300 of them and said, I just can't do it anymore.
No. Yeah, I get that way too with books. I have to really, that magic what you were talking about earlier has to really pull me in, and I have to be there. And if I'm stumbling upon, if I have to stumble a lot, it's not that pleasurable, I guess.
Yeah.
You have to work at it then.
Hi, squirrel.
Hi. Hi there.
Well, cool.
Yeah, this is really fun.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you want to watch to make sure you got what you wanted?
Sure,
okay.
and make sure that
I'm fine, whatever. Yeah.